worship is a really vital part of the Christian faith. And we're going to have a little think about what that actually looks like, what is it all about, and why do Christians do that? And to help discuss this topic, I've invited two local Christian worship leaders from churches in Lancaster to come and share some of their thoughts. So, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Yes, my name's Jono. I work here at St Thomas's Church where we're filming today. We're based right in the centre of Lancaster.
Great.
And I'm Nick, and I'm the worship leader at New Life Church Lancaster, which meet just opposite the infirmary.
Great. So we'll get into thinking a little bit about what worship is and how it works and why Christians love to do all that singing. But first of all, what actually is worship in a broader sense? How would you define what worship really is? Nick, why don't you start us off?
So for me, worship is the things that I do which show that I love something a lot. And so whether that's kind of football, or whether it's my partner, or whether it's TV, I will invest my time and my money and my kind of everything I'm doing in that. And it's kind of the doing, it's not just the thinking, it's the doing. So worship is me showing that I really value something, even more than myself.
I think of worship, I'm a football fan, I'm a Liverpool fan for my sins, and I feel like, you know, when you see football fans that dedicate everything they are and everything they have to their team, they'll travel the world to go and watch them play. They're not ashamed to wear a t-shirt out in town with their badge on and, you know, really nail the colours to the mast of who it is they're supporting and that kind of thing. When they're singing at the top of their lungs in support of their team, whether they're winning or they're losing. I think actually I find that a really helpful analogy to get my head around some of what we do at church in the way that we worship God.
Brilliant, yeah. So to bring it into a Christian context then, how do Christians worship? And what ways do Christians worship? What do you say, John?
Yeah, so a lot of the time, if you walk into a church or if you ask a Christian or a vicar what worship is, often people will talk about it being, you know, the stuff that's done on a Sunday, so stuff that happens in the church building. So most people would say it's about singing. We call kind of the songs that we sing worship music. But actually worship is in itself more than that. You know, as Nick was saying, it really is kind of everything that we do to show that we love something.
Yeah, that's really good. So it's not just about the Sunday worship, it could be all the way through the week. Is there anything else you'd add to that?
Only just that, you know, it's the way how I show I love God. So for some people, it might be rather than me going out for a meal with my family, it might be buying food for a food bank. It might be rather than me going out on a Friday night, it might be me going out to see the homeless and help the homeless. So it's all those things that I'm doing to show that I love God. And it's not just the doing, it's not just the me giving food to a food bank, it's me doing it because I love God. That is me worshipping God. And I think as a Christian, there's lots of different ways that we can do that. I mean, even coming to a building on a Sunday morning when I could be staying in bed, or I could be out playing football, is a form of worship, because it's me saying that actually, God, I want to give you this time rather than do something I want to do in terms of football or something.
And sometimes in church it's referred to actually as kind of a sacrifice of worship, and I think that's really helpful language for me, that actually often when worship's most powerful is when it costs me something to do it, whether that's money or time or energy or brain space or my reputation, you know, whatever that might be, because actually when I make that sacrifice, it really makes me think, you know, I'm not just going through the motions doing a nice thing for someone because it's a nice thing to do, but actually it's that sacrifice that makes me kind of consider that. And I suppose the extreme version of that, you may come across kind of monks and nuns who actually live in that kind of community, or people like Mother Teresa who, you know, in history have given everything up in order to follow what they feel that God is calling them to. And actually that is a lifestyle of worship.
For sure, yeah. And I can see from those different kind of comments there, really, actually, there's lots of different ways that people can worship, and different people will appreciate worshipping in different ways, different styles during the week and on Sunday mornings. Would you say there's a right and a wrong way to worship?
I mean, I think I don't think there's kind of ways of ranking, you know, that worship's better than that worship, and, you know, like the X Factor or the Strictly where you go, oh, that's a 7, that's an 8. But I think whenever worship becomes about us, it's in the wrong place. That actually, you know, when we're going to look, I think in a minute, at some of the equipment and stuff that we use for our musical worship here. That's the kind of worship that I oversee in this church. And for us, we're very clear that actually we want to make a joyful noise, but actually if it becomes about people taking their eyes off God and onto the band or the group or the choir or whoever it is that's leading that, and it becomes about a performance, then it's not worship anymore, because it's not about God, it becomes about me.
Yeah, that's really helpful. So we've mentioned a little bit already that obviously singing is quite an important part, and I'm sure lots of people will be aware that Christians like to sing, but what's that actually all about? Why is singing such an important part? Why do Christians like to sing as part of their worship?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few different aspects to this, really. Firstly, through history, through scripture, through the Bible, we see that significant things happen and significant things change when people raise their voice in worship. And some of that, actually, we don't understand. That part of what's amazing about God is that he works beyond our understanding at times. I don't always know why things happen in a space when we sing, but the fact is that I've experienced that and I've seen it happen, and I've seen God move in that way. And I suppose to take there's loads of biblical stories about that, but to take something maybe a bit closer to today, if you look at the song Amazing Grace, actually that rose out of the experience of a slave trade boat driver who was transporting slaves as part of the slave trade, had this incredible experience and wrote that song off the back of that encounter with God that they've had. And that song has then spoken to people and profoundly impacted the lives of Christians for hundreds of years. And music has a way of doing that.
Something else that God really likes is when people are together and they think in a similar way and they work together to see God do something across a community. And I think this is one way that singing can do that. So what I really love about singing is just how you can be singing the same tune, and you can have 100 people singing the same tune, but they could be singing their own harmonies, they could be doing their own little bit of expression in terms of different syncopated beats.
And different languages as well,
languages, and it just makes a bigger, fuller sound. And there's something about God in that God doesn't want us all to be doing exactly the same thing in the same way. He wants us all to be expressing who we are, but doing it in a way that is together. And the great thing about singing is, the words, we can join together with the words. The words mean a lot. And when we can sing those words together, that brings us together in a place that ordinarily, if we were just coming in with our heads spaced in different places, we wouldn't have that same togetherness.
Yeah, and I like what you mentioned about singing other languages as well. I had the privilege of being able to go to Brazil and sing in a church there with hundreds of people in a language that I don't speak, and yet somehow I could still worship God and fix my eyes on God because of the atmosphere of worship, and I knew that this song, even though I couldn't understand all the words, was about glorifying God. So I can really appreciate how that sense of singing, especially singing together, can really have a big impact on how we worship. So let's perhaps again come a little bit more personal. How would you say, because so both of you are involved in leading worship and things in a church setting, but how does that actually impact your own life or your own faith? Why is singing and music and worship in that sense really important to you? Why has it led you to want to serve in this way in a church? Jonny?
Yeah, for sure. So I think for me there have been significant points in my life where I feel like I've come to the end of myself. I don't know if you can relate with that, where you kind of feel like circumstances have gone beyond your control and you just feel like, I can't do anymore, I can't give anymore. And for me, it's been in times of worship where I felt God speak to me personally. I felt a sense of peace that I can't explain. And actually God's inspired me to write songs that are now being sung in other churches as well, out of my experience. And I think for me, it's solidified my faith in a God that isn't just an academic faith, that isn't just a faith that I can rationalise in my head and I can study history about, but in times of worship, I feel God has spoken to me in a way that means I know my faith is true for me in my heart rather than just in my head.
Mm-hmm.
again, similar to John, I think for me it's a very easy way for me to express my feelings. I'm not very good at expressing my feelings, talking or through words, but when I'm singing or when I'm playing the piano or the guitar, there's a way that I can express myself that I feel a sense of freedom in how I am talking and relating to God. And whether that's on my own or whether that's with a group of people, I still sense that. And I guess there's that sense of, because I really appreciate that personally, to be able to lead other people and to show other people that you can do that allows them that sense of freedom as well, and allows them to be able to learn to express their happy times, their sad times, their in-between times, their times when life happens, to just have that tool to be able to just freely express what I'm feeling, whether that's good or bad, towards God, allows me just to be able to do that. And I quite like that. I do quite like that. And again, the other time, I'm guessing for me as well, is when, I don't know about you, but when you sing songs, I learn words a lot easier.
Mm.
So I just have times in my life when things are happening that I'm really struggling, and a song that we've been singing in church will come back to me, and it's been a real strength. You know, if it's a song about, you know, God will be there, regardless of who I am, regardless of what I'm going through, God will be there supporting me and helping me. When I remember those words and I sing it out, it just reminds me that actually there is somebody there who is helping me, who is supporting me through these times, and I'm not on my own. I find that really, really useful.
Well, it's great to see from your understanding, but also your personal experience, how worship and particularly singing has that big impact on you as an individual, and we've talked about how it's really important to do it as corporately as part of a gathering of people, and how uplifting that can be. It's great that it's also personal. It impacts you and enables you to get through the different challenges of life or the ups and downs of life. And that's really, really good. So hopefully that helps you to see how worship works in a Christian context and why it is so important, such an important part of the Christian faith in being able to glorify and worship the God that Christians believe in. But we've mentioned a few times there about different kind of instruments and things, and it might be that you have a certain expectation of what worship or singing looks like in a church, maybe with an organ or with different things. But Nick, you just mentioned a keyboard and a guitar, and what we're going to do now is actually just have a quick look round St Thomas's church here and see what kind of things they've got as part of their setup to enable worship to happen. Cool. So, Jono, tell us a bit about what we've got sort of set up here at St Thomas's.
Yeah, so it's we're here. We're kind of at the back of the church. So this is, people would normally sort of sit facing the front that way. We've got a sound desk here, which is actually a digital sound desk, which allows us to mix all the different instruments, and we can play music through computer. We can stream stuff, all that kind of thing. And then up at the front here, we have a band setup that we would normally have on a Sunday. So we'd have someone playing keyboards, and we can have kind of different synth sounds and pads and all sorts of stuff there. For anyone that's musical, you'll get that. We also have someone who will play an acoustic guitar. We've got a couple of microphones for singers. At the back, over this side, we've got a drum kit that gets used each week. And we've also got a bass guitar set up here. And we'll have an electric guitarist as well who brings all this stuff with them from home, which allows us to play a whole range of music. Most of the stuff that we play is kind of a kind of rock kind of feel, I suppose, in terms of the sound. If you like Coldplay or Snow Patrol, it's that kind of musical feel, but it also allows us the flexibility to play different styles of music as well. So sometimes we'll maybe just have the piano and a singer if we're doing something quieter, or we can have a huge band with different lights and stuff on if we're going for more of that kind of party kind of atmosphere. So that's a little bit, I suppose, about what we do here. Obviously there are other churches across the city and across the country who worship in very different ways, but that's a little tour of the St Thomas's band area.